Hey there, listeners. Welcome to another episode of the Ham Radio Guy podcast. This will be episode number 42, and it's going to be a little different today. Something you've never heard from me in this way before, and it's really about how this stems from my current position and really explaining a little bit about the history, how we've evolved, what ham radio can do for you, what ham radio is, just how magnificent and how interesting and scientific and technology driven this hobby really is. And if you're a communication enthusiast, you're going to love this. So stay tuned as we go forward here and dive into the captivating realm of ham radio. Ever imagine talking to someone halfway across the globe without the internet or cell towers? That's really the world of ham radio. It's just more than a local conversation. It's about creating those local connections. You could be sharing ideas with someone from another continent or even chatting with astronauts aboard the International Space Station. The possibilities really are endless. But ham radio is more than just connecting people. It's also about exploring the science behind these connections. How do radio signals manage to travel thousands of miles? What impact does weather have on communication? And how do you set up your own radio station? If you've ever been curious about communication technology, ham radio could be the perfect hobby for you. And even if you are maybe already a ham radio licensed operator today, you may still have many of these questions that have never been answered. So I'm hoping that you will truly enjoy this. So to truly grasp the significance of ham radio, it's important to look back at its origins. And our story begins here in the late 19th century with the invention of radio. In 1895, inventor Guglielmo Marconi made his first transmission in Italy. It wasn't until the early 20th century that amateur radio enthusiasts known as hams started to make their mark. Now, part of this is driving me also is there's the Marconi Museum and whatnot out on the far eastern side of Massachusetts. And my brother just visited that this past week. And this has kind of driven me to be more interested in some of this history, how this has come about. Both world wars, hams were essentially as emergency communicators. They provided critical updates about enemy movements, assisted in rescue missions. The term ham even emerged during this time, originally as a playful nickname for amateur radio operators who said to have ham up their signals. Now, when traditional communication methods fail, ham radio often becomes a vital lifeline. Whether it's earthquakes or hurricanes, ham operators are often the first to provide crucial information, underscoring the crucial role in emergencies. Over the decades, ham radio has evolved significantly. It's begun with Morse code, a series of dots and dashes for messaging, then became a voice communication, which opened up a whole new range of possibilities. Really, it's the first digital mode. Today we have more digital modes like RTTY, PSK31, JS8, FT8 that offers new ways to communicate. Some of them very basic and limited. Despite these technological advances, the essence of community, service, and global connection remains as strong as ever for amateur radio. Ham radio has also kept pace with technological advances in most ways. From early spark gap transmitters and crystal receivers, it's evolved into a modern hobby with cutting edge technology, SDR receivers, and voice, technology, some AI. Today's ham radio integrates digital modes and software defined radios, making it even more relevant in our digital age. More, remote radios and, you're connecting your head and your radio to via Ethernet cable, with gigabyte speeds. So even as we take communication for granted in the internet era, ham radio continues to demonstrate its value. It remains a dependable tool during emergencies when conventional networks fail. This resilience highlights its enduring significance. But ham radio just is about emergency situations. We all know that. It's a vibrant community filled with people who are passionate about everything from technical aspects of building and operating ham radios and making global connections to building new radios, and antennas of all sorts. In amateur radio, there's truly something for everyone. Race, mankind, woman, I don't care. I mean, you can get anybody involved in amateur radio. And ham radio even reaches beyond Earth. We do Earth bounce. We have astronauts on the International Space Station using ham radio to interact with students around the globe. We inspire future scientists and engineers there was a story I just recently saw that a lady was going to school and got introduced to ham radio and changed over to engineering. So even in an age of instant messaging and social media, ham radio holds a very special place in our world. And it's very privileged that we have the ability to have the licenses and the operating bands that we do. And we want to be able to use those bands to the full spectrum we can. And sometimes it's just a matter of going out and saving them, even as like the 915 megahertz area of the 900 megahertz band that we're using for Meshtastic. It's under scrutiny right now by the FCC. So how can you get involved? First, you need to obtain a ham radio license. This can be done in very many different ways, from going out to a place like Ham Study, Ham Radio Prep, the ARRL. You can get the Gordon West books from ARRL. Lots of different ways you can find a club that may be having a local test or training session to be able to help you get licensed. You even have the ability to find maybe an Elmer or somebody that is willing to help you along your journey. So this isn't just a formality, but it's your gateway to exploring and discovering new facets of communication. With a license, you'll gain access to various frequency bands, each offering unique challenges and opportunities as you upgrade your license from technician to general to that extra class. More importantly, you'll be prepared to provide communication in emergencies when other methods might fail. Imagine being a crucial link during a crisis. Your skills and license can make a significant difference. And even if it's not maybe on a regional or a global aspect, it might be important to your family that you can communicate with somebody else or find a way to communicate across the country to somebody else that might have a ham radio license that lets your other family members know in a far distance area that you can't reach via internet or something, some other means of cell phone, that you're okay. So getting a license isn't merely just about gaining a hobby, but it's about joining a global community of communication enthusiasts. With your ham radio license, you'll become part of a worldwide network of individuals who share a love for communication and exploration. And we have to find a way to engage these young students that are interested in science and technology and engineering and mechanical to get involved in amateur radio. There is so much there in the STEM world. And so many young students are getting involved through programs like the Teachers Institute with the ARRL that are teaching students wonderful things about amateur radio and how antennas are built. And you're learning, from that so many other different skills and life practical items that will take you far. So as we wrap up this episode, I hope you're as fascinated by ham radio as I am. And if you're finding interest in learning more about ham radio, check out resources like the ARRL or, again, your local amateur radio club. There's nothing more important than getting involved with a local club, finding an Elmer or a group of people that are willing and able to help you succeed and be a great amateur radio operator with a lifelong journey of learning and figuring things out. As I've been doing this for 29 years, at 28, 29 years, is I'm now getting more interested in satellite operation. Things I wanted to do when I first started amateur radio, and I heard so much about AMSAT, but I've just never done it. And here it is 29 years later. I'm taking on that journey. I'm learning it, and I'm starting to make it work and figure it out. And it's so exciting as I go forward with that. And I hope that you'll find your amateur radio journey of learning new things, new techniques, playing with new antennas, new radios will continue to drive that excitement for you for many, many years to come. So this is, again, a very different episode than I've done ever, but I hope that you will actually enjoy this and be inspired by doing something more with your amateur radio license. We have hundreds of thousands of people out there who are licensed but don't get active and really get involved. And I hope that you can find somebody or help somebody along, or that if you're one of those people listening to this podcast and you don't have a lot involvement in amateur radio, that you'll find a mentor or a club or somebody that can help you along. And reach out to me, W0MET at thehamradioguy.com, if nothing else, and I will help guide you along your way, or find you somebody in your area that can. I know lots of active people around the country, and I'm happy to do that. So thanks for tuning into this podcast again today, The Ham Radio Guy. If you enjoy this episode, make sure you subscribe. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, feel free to reach out. Until next time, keep exploring, keep communicating, and keep tuning into the amazing world of amateur radio, or ham radio. In the chair and on the air, as always, this is W0MET 73.